Hey, this is Nathan. Today I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to show my version of how I play the guitar. I'm going to talk through my guitar amp, my pedal board, the guitars that I use for the electric rig and the way in which that I use them. So I hope this is helpful to somebody. A couple of things that I'll say before I start. I've never been in a position to spend a huge amount of money on gear, so I tended to do a bit of reading and have found pedals that are on the cheaper side but still create a good sound, and maybe that's something that someone out there might be able to use. Also, what I'll say now is that I use Planet Waves cables only for the long runs, and I've had them for years. And for the patch cables between the pedals, I'm using Pro Snake cables from Thomann, the German internet shop. Anyway, hope that is useful to you, and let's get on with what I've got. Okay, so the amp that I'm using is a Mizubuki Studio Caliber, which I think is like 20 years old or so. This is really old. I got it second hand, and it was sort of a wee bit broken when I got it. If it wasn't for the extortionately cheap price that I was able to get it for, I wouldn't own one. So go a little closer and show you what way I'm using it. I only use it on the clean channel. I use my pedals for the drive and whatnot. It's a little dark to see, but the output level I leave at 2 for now, just because of the volume that it is in the room. Then the master I've set high to 8, just so as it can drive those output tubes a wee bit better. The reverb I have off again, I use pedals for that. The presence is set to 3, and the bass, mid and treble are set to about 4, 5 and 7. I like a bit of a brighter sound. And the gain is set to 1 again for a little more presence, but not for any kind of grit or distortion. Go over here then to the actual pedal board. Okay, so what I have is a QTX splitter box over here, and all that is a sort of glorified daisy chain. I haven't had any problems with it, so I've had no need to buy anything more expensive than that. So the first pedal in the line is this Morley Bad Horsey. I got it real cheap on eBay. I think it was about £60, and I don't use the contour switch on it. I've played with it before in the past. I have used it, just currently I don't. But the switchless function of it is great for live use. Then go into just a Boss TU2 tuner. Don't really need to say anything more about that. Then go into a Boss compressor sustainer, which I use all the time. The attack and sustainer are set to about 9 o'clock, and the tone, just as to make my overall sound a bit brighter, it's about 2 o'clock. Then I use the Bad Monkey overdrive from Digitech, and it's just for a little bit of grit and a bit of a boost. What I like about it is that it can clean up, and if you dig in, it really drives a very versatile pedal for very little money. Okay, then I use these two rather unconventional pedals. They're from Harley Benton, or Joyo, I guess, is another company that make them. They're Chinese knockoffs, really. And I have them as standard overdrive pedals in my chain, but they can be used as preamp pedals, meaning that you can plug the outputs straight to a sound desk. I have done it. It sounds okay. Get you by if you're stuck, but it sounds great just as normal pedals. I have part of it taped off because the knobs are quite easily turned. So it's just to keep them in place, because they're incredibly sensitive as well. The range of tones you can get is unbelievable. Definitely worth trying out. They're about 20 quid each, I think. Again, cheap alternatives to what other people use, and I think they sound great. Obviously the IC tone is to kind of hint at
an AC 15 or 30 overdriven, and the California pedal is sort of tied up with Mesa Boogie tones, the heavier side of a Mesa Boogie, I guess. Okay, from there we go to this tremolo pedal by Bayang. Again, another Chinese pedal, which I only really use for a pulsing kind of sound on cleaner tones. I don't use a huge amount of tremolo, but it's really nice to have it there, and again, it did not cost very much. It sounds good. Now the only problem is there's a wee bit of a volume drop with it, but it's when you're playing at a gigging kind of level, it's really not noticeable, but it gives a nice sound. Next is the chorus ensemble from Boss. This is the first pedal I ever got, and it's been on my board ever since. It's I use it obviously for cleaner sounds, with a higher rate, sort of set about 3 o'clock, and the depth is at about 11 o'clock, and it just fattens up single notes and chords. I kind of like that chimey effect that you get with the chorus, so that's what I'm using it for. I then go into the Joe Satriani signature delay, the Time Machine from Vox. I have no presets for this at all. It's such a versatile pedal. You can do anything with it. It's great, and having a tap tempo and a modern and vintage setting, sort of like analog or digital delay, is incredible to have. I tend to play a lot of worship music as well as sort of bluesy rock music, and for the worship music that I play, it's very convenient, but not a very common choice. So yeah, great delay pedal. Then I go into this Digitech Digiverb. Not a lot to say about it really. I keep it generally on the hall setting. And it's just to sort of take the rough edges off my playing. Like I said earlier, I don't use the reverb on the pedal, so it just lifts the sound a little bit. Wee bit of reverb there, but not very much. When I really want reverb to stand out, I use the Hall of Fame Mini. I initially got it to try using, sort of creating my own tone prints and then beaming them in while I played. But before I even got into the tone print editor, I stumbled across Steve Vai's patch that he made for it, or someone worked with Steve Vai to make, and I liked it so much I stayed with it. I'll let you hear it shortly, but it's basically a very big and spacious reverb. So that is the board, the way that I use it. I don't have an effects loop currently. It's all going through the front of the amp, although I only do that for sort of ease of use. I have used the effects loop before, and I do think it sounds better, but for ease of use and to save time when setting up, I have it all going into the front of the amp at the minute. So anyway, on to some sounds. Before I do that, actually, I thought I'd tell you a wee bit about the two guitars that I'm using. I'm using this Strat style guitar. It's made by Westfield, that sort of beginner make of guitar. This is the first electric guitar I ever got. It's not the best, but there's something to be said for getting to know your instruments and getting to know your equipment, and you can definitely make it sound good, I think. So this is totally standard. Nothing has been changed on this guitar. I just really like how it feels, and there's something, even though it was cheap, something very sentimental about it because it was the first one I ever got. Okay, and for thicker sounds, I use this Tanglewood Les Paul. It's really chunky, just sort of good old Les Paul style of a thing. I sort of messed around a wee bit with it, took pickups out of guitar that sort of half broken of mine and put them in here, and then realised that I really don't use the bridge or the neck pickup very much, so I have it wired up so as it's only the bridge pickup that works. The switch currently does nothing. I would like to turn that into a kill switch soon. And the golden knobs on the guitar control tone and volume,
and the black ones do nothing. It saved me filling up the guitar with something I just didn't want to fill in the holes in case I changed my mind in later life. But those are the two guitars that I'll be using. Okay, I'm now going to give you some examples of how I use these pedals and the way in which I like them to sound. To do this, I'm going to try and give you the best quality I can. I'm using, what I'm talking into is an MB, let me think, 85 from Thomann, so it's just sort of their version of an SM58. And on the guitar, sort of pointing at the center of the cone, but down a little more, is an MB75, so it's the Thomann version of an SM57 instrument mic. This is being recorded straight into Reaper, and there is nothing being added to it in the program. It is just sort of as the microphone captures it. So here are some clean tones that I use with the Strat. Sometimes I might use the AC tone, but back off the guitar volume for a little bit of drive. Some cleaner sounds. And then the very, very clear, clean chorus sound. Okay, and that sort of covers the majority of the sounds that I use with the Strat. Okay, next up is the Les Paul sound. These are this is the kind of clean sound that I'm getting. This is just with the compressor on. Okay, so here is maybe just a gentle crunch sound that I would use. Slightly heavier sound. Okay. Some of the sounds that I get out of this are kind of lead related, so I'll try and show you some of that now. I'll sometimes also use the wah pedal, kind of at a bit of a stretch here, so I'll try this. Sorry if I end up blocking your vision at all. It goes a little something like this maybe. I'll try and let you hear this California sound. It's gonna sound really bright when it's not in the right context, I guess, but this is what it's like. So there we go, that is the California sound. That pretty much covers everything more or less that I do. I think I used every pedal. But these things change all the time. I don't have hard and fast ways of one sound is activated this particular way. One of the joys of guitar is always getting to try stuff out. So I hope this made sense. I hope that you sort of got an idea of what is achievable with cheaper end gear. Yeah, and have fun creating your own sound. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.